Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to Pass the Aux Cord, a channel where I'm finally doing another, actual full-length review rather than a reaction. Thought it'd never happen, but here we are. Today's review is going to be on the new studio album from Rhode Island singer and rapper Khary titled This Is Weird. Khary is an artist that I've been following for a pretty fair amount of time at this point, originally discovering his Intern aquarium project 4 years back. How I originally heard about the guy was through the YouTuber Luna, because for a pretty sizable chunk of time, Luna was playing Khary's music in the background of his outros. And this is actually how a lot of people hopped on board, just not myself. And it's really surprising to see how such a seemingly minuscule thing can really help you out in the long run, because that is when a lot of people started to become a fan, and I still see a lot of people in the comment section, so on and so forth, being a fan because of those outros to this day, myself included, of course. We see this coming full circle because Luna actually helps out with kind of a skit, little thing at the beginning where he's playing a kid in the very first few seconds of the album, doing this kind of, intro skit thing. And that and many other things are kind of making this a direct wraparound to everything he's been working towards to this point. There's countless references to Intern Aquarium. You can look at how he has a song on here called Revenge of the Intern, where he talks about that whole situation that he was in, kind of his views on it now, and how it got him to where he is, and his situation then compared to now. Also, there's the fact that the story of this album seems to be somewhat of a direct continuation, sort of a sequel to Intern Aquarium, based on the fact that the skits featuring Jermaine Fowler as this boss character, a very douchey and controlling boss that did these skits in Intern Aquarium, is back here once again, adding a little bit of story and a little bit of comedy to spice up the album a little bit. I have always loved these skits on Intern Aquarium. It really adds a lot of character to this album as well, all the way to the fact that he actually makes several direct mentions to Intern Aquarium. Seeing this direct turn around is very fitting, because this is so far his artistic peak of quality and consistency. The evolution of his music is certainly evident up until this point. He also seems to be more proud of this project than any other project he's released, just from the release cycles that I've seen come out and so forth as he's progressed. He definitely took his time with this one, completely changing the format. This was originally supposed to be a 3-part trilogy, one album being this, one album being Is, one album being Weird. But after he wasn't really happy with how this turned out, he decided to kind of scrap the idea and just put out the whole thing as an album. And I think it works so much better for the overall consistency this way. It doesn't feel cobbled together in any way like I was kind of worried this 3-part trilogy was going to. This really does seem like the peak point that he was trying to go for these years that he's been creating music. One thing that I've always really appreciated about his music is his ability to make the listener empathize and feel the emotions of the narrator. His lyrics are far more personal, relatable, and just have the ability to connect with you a lot better than a lot of rappers in his lane. When typing this review up, honestly it feels a little weird to critique him, because Khary's music has always been like a support line through my 4 years of high school. It timed out perfectly, and it was always something that I kind of fell back on over the years, because I could relate to the mood and the feeling behind the music so well. Look no further than the track Nomad if you really want to see how far this goes, where Khary kind of recants his failures and ways that he thinks he could have made himself a lot better, and hence the title. He feels like he doesn't even have a home to fall back on. While this track has existed for quite a while, I was pretty impressed to see how many other songs on here kind of elaborate upon that same theme. You've got the song on here, Did I Fail, which is summed up pretty well by the title and obviously connects. There is a myriad of other themes addressed on this album, even if they do all kind of fall under this self-doubt and eventual redemption umbrella that is definitely continued on the track 2, which is one of the oldest singles that was released for this project at this point. There's dives into relationship struggles on the tracks like Fuchsia, Fallen in Line, and my favorite of the bunch, Ugly / You'll Sleep with Someone Else. And finally, I guess if I ever stop rambling on the topic, you have songs that are kind of talking about being overstimulated, stressed out, and burnt out. This is something that definitely calls back to the Intern Aquarium days, because that mixtape is about the struggles of being an unpaid intern. Obviously a connection here. One of the biggest connections is the fact that he has a direct reference with the song Planet Earth, saying the chorus back on planet Earth is a direct callback to A Year in Space, a song off of Intern Aquarium, where he was saying that he needs a year in space to be away from everything. And now on planet Earth, he's saying he's back on planet Earth dealing with everything once again. The fact of the matter is, one big word that I would kind of put on this is jarring, unfortunately, because he does kind of hop from topic to topic, and it can be a little bit hard to wrap your mind around everything that's going on from time to time, even if it's all kind of under this finding yourself umbrella. But it's really not that big of a deal, because he does such a great job at wrapping it up at the end. Don't be fooled by the very goofy titles. These last two songs are incredibly important. I Love You Be is a song that kind of sees our narrator in a happy position romantically, seems to have found a way to work things out with the love interest of the story, seems to be coming to terms with that aspect of, a stressor that was going on. And while that settles only one issue, the following and actual closer track, Anime Saga Ending, wraps up everything else. On this song, Khary talks about both his accomplishments and his failures, taking an optimistic tone about his past and the future endeavors he has planned. Not tying everything off permanently, of course, there is still a to be continued to this story, but certainly wrapping around in a almost redemption arc type way to a very optimistic mindset that is pretty much necessary to just keep on keeping on in life. So while, as I was kind of saying, I'm a little bit put off by the huge variety of topics that are covered here, I like that it's all kind of under the same umbrella, I'll use that word again, and that it all gets wrapped up in the end so well. In sound and style, though, it's a little bit hard to wrap it up at the end, but it still remains a little bit jarring sometimes. There's a lot to unpack in this department, and despite the album's title, even if it can be a little bit stranger at times, most of it is pretty accessible. It's just that it varies a lot. A lot of it is far from unfamiliar to Khary listeners, but while kind of encapsulating everything lyrically he's talked about before, sonically the same thing happens, and it does come across a little bit messy from time to time. Khary takes advantage of a lot of really chill and relaxed beats, maybe here more than usual even, a lot of the stylings being not unlike Code of the Friend, contemporary and actually a featured artist on this track. They have worked together in the past as well. There is a pretty fitting aspect to that collaboration because there are certainly similarities in the two's music. If you go from there and just kind of make it a little bit more, well, weird, I suppose, you kind of have Khary's sound. You'll definitely catch some chill acoustic guitar riffs like the song that I just mentioned with Code of the Friend on it, as well as the track following that, the very chill, melodic, and blissful 2. He does dip his toes into a lot of singing styles on here, especially on that last track that I mentioned. There is a lot of sung hooks and choruses on this album, and there's just a lot more melody to Khary's vocals than we've usually seen in the past. It's not like he's never tried it out before, but it seems like he's really embracing the style and executing it a lot better here. Despite the normal things that I've mentioned, you do get some very weird, off-kilter things happening every once in a while, like the track Ugly, You'll Sleep With Someone Else, that kind of has a staticky sound to it in the mix. There's also the very chimey, plucky melodies on the track Fallen in Line that also is very feature heavy, so it has a lot of different vocal stylings that aren't really to be expected. Sylvan LeCue, Samwise, and Aotemi all have vocal features on here, only one of which having anything remotely similar to Khary's style, giving this one a totally different sound. And the list of very different things that you hear on this album does go on and on and on, and I could take out a bunch of really specific things to mention, but the main thing to remember here is that most of the time it's pretty accessible, but every once in a while they try something really new and unique on here, which does spice things up, but also contributes to the mental gymnastics that this album does feel like at times. This hour-long journey does cover a whole lot of things, and I'm somewhat impressed with that aspect of it. However, it does really feel like you've kind of ran a marathon trying to justify every sonic and lyrical transition that's happening all over it. The upsides of this very flaw, though, are certainly evident, because this means that every song stands alone on its own very well. It's good for playlists, things like that, because while these all have a pretty different mood from each other and you end up feeling pretty much every emotion, that means that there's a song on here for pretty much every one of your playlists. And really, pressing play on any track on here is pretty solid just to do, just on its own. You can kind of just pick out any certain one and have a good time with it. And I will go back to mentioning the fact that even if this doesn't really affect the sound at all, he does such a great job at not only wrapping up this album, but everything that he's put out up to this point. It has all kind of been wrapped up in a story, and especially with this feeling like such a direct sequel to Intern Aquarium, this is kind of the ending, the conclusion point, the climactic moment that we've all been waiting for, and I feel like he really landed the story well. All in all, the fact that he ad-libs his verses with the phrase "this is weird" and has been doing that for years, it is very fitting that one of his biggest kind of characteristics that he puts on every song is also the name of this album, because this album is very Khary. It kind of shows everything that he's all about, and I really like that about this. It's been super exciting to watch him grow from the earlier points where he just had those first couple of projects out up until this point when he's actually releasing something huge that he's been working towards. Yeah, so I'm really impressed, but at the same time I never really had a doubt in my mind. 8 out of 10. So that is just about going to wrap it up for this one. If you liked the video today, drop a like on it, and let me know what you thought down in the comments section below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want more music-related content coming your way, and turn on the notification bell for that very reason. But that is just about going to wrap it up for this one, and I will see you in the next video.